Russell and Romeo, they showed up on stage and they were like cheering us. Hey, great guys, great energy. And I was like about to faint, my hero watching me playing.
Hi, Simone. How's it going? It's Brandon calling from Canada.
Hey, how you doing? It's all good here. How about you?
Doing well. Doing well. Doing okay.
Cool.
You're in Italy, correct?
Yes, right.
Whereabouts are you calling from in Italy?
I'm from Rimini. You know that? No, probably not.
I haven't heard of it, sadly. Is that
It's
near?
like, let's say, 2 hours under Venice, pretty much.
Okay.
So I'm pretty much in the middle of Italy.
Ah, okay. So would that make you also fairly close to Rome, or no? Is Rome more north?
Actually, I'm 4 hours drive from Rome.
Ah, okay. Okay. So you're kind of in the middle of the
So
two then, eh?
yeah, I'm like 4 hours from Milan, 4 hours from Rome. So I'm like, yeah, in the middle, exactly. I'm on the coast, like on the west coast.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
it's,
Huh?
yeah, this is a like touristic city with in summer there are like millions of people coming from wherever, like Germany, England. So we hate it in the summer, we love it in the winter because we're
That's very funny. Yeah, where I'm from, I guess, is a little bit like that. I'm from Windsor, Canada, which is right next to Detroit.
okay.
So, for many years, Windsor was kind of known as the Sin City of Canada
Oh, okay.
because our drinking age is lower than the Americans. So, a lot of American kids, 18, 19, 20, who were in
Right.
university would come over to drink. But a lot of that has faded away
Okay.
in recent years.
A lot of my family is from Detroit, actually, because
Really?
I've never been there, honestly, but my grandfather's brother, I mean, they went together to Detroit to work when they were like when they were like 20 in the 20s.
Hmm.
And then my grandfather came back and I don't know how to call. I mean, grandfather's brother, he stayed there. So he built his family there. So I have all the cousins and a lot of relatives over there. I mean, they visited here many times, but I've never been there. So
Yeah, it's funny. Windsor and Detroit both have big Italian populations, so I mean,
oh,
they were
okay.
probably part of that movement. Yeah, it's funny because my own family did that about 100 years ago. They moved from Europe, the Ukraine, and England, and so forth, to this area as well because Detroit was the big factory city where all the jobs were, right? So a lot of people immigrated to this area. So when I do these, I like to start at the beginning of you as a musician and then work our way up through your career and up to the new DGM record Life. So starting from the beginning, where did you grow up? I guess we kind of discussed that. And how did you get started in music?
Well, yeah, I was born here in my hometown. I never left. It's quite easy because my father plays guitar, and he's always been obsessed with all the 70s great hard rock bands, starting from the Cream with Eric Clapton
Hmm.
and Hendrix, of course. But probably his favorites are like Blackmore and Deep Purple and Rainbow. I really grew up listening all those albums like day and night, like Machine Head, Made in Japan, all those great albums and Rainbow especially, because my father was spinning them day and night. But in the beginning, I wasn't that involved into the guitar itself. I mean, it was just, yeah, I was listening to the records along with my father, but I wasn't interested in learning to play the instrument. But then I remember clearly my father brought me to a gig of a guy, I don't know, a known guy. He was playing along with acoustic guitar and singing, sort of bluesy, like country kind of stuff. Well, in this smoky pub where everybody was smoking, drinking beers, and I was like 16 years old. And to me, it was like magic, like the atmosphere and I said to myself, I want to become that guy, on stage playing guitar with his beer and a cigarette and stuff. And then I asked to my father, why don't you teach me? Because yeah, he plays guitar, but he never studied anything. He doesn't know anything about scales, theory. He just play by ear with his friends, having fun. Nothing like professional or stuff like that. So my father told me, no, I won't be able to teach you guitar because I don't know anything. I just do a bunch of chords and riffs. So you better be a good student of classical guitar. So he signed me into this classical music school, private school, and I hated it because I wanted to play like Blackmore riffs, and they were teaching me all the, like reading music and all the basics that I hated. So I lasted probably like 1 year. And then I started on my own, with my schoolmates. We started a little band. We were doing cover, like Deep Purple, Europe. And then I think when I was like 18, 19, I discovered all the Guitar Heroes thing, Steve Vai, Yngwie Malmsteen, all those guys. And I was blown away, because until that point, to me, the guitar was like, the 70s, basically, like Blackmore, Steve Lukather, all the Jimmy Page, all Led Zeppelin stuff. And suddenly then I discovered this totally different, crazy scene of like technical players and stuff. And basically started from there because, then you discover other people playing, and someone showed me, I think the two major turning point for me musically was where first when I heard Malmsteen, and second when a guy gave me the Divine Winds of Tragedy from Symphony X.
Oh, that record was huge for me as well.
And that record was like, okay, this is the perfect combination of everything that I love, because it had, heavy riffs like Pantera riffs, and then neoclassical stuff. So because that's why I love, because I was a lot into Yngwie. And the vocals were stellar, like Russell is probably my favorite singer ever. So it really had all the elements. And then I started, like everyone else, with schoolmates, we started a little band. And then I think I did 2 albums with my school band. It was called Empyrios. We released 2 albums.
Oh, yep, I know them. Yeah, good, very very modern. It's sort of like more modern DGM, I guess.
Yeah, we were more into not melodic as DGM. We were more into like Nevermore. Like Nevermore, Symphony X, a little Meshuggah here and there, but with clean vocals. It was very modern, actually. Right, you're right. But then the guys of DGM, we were playing with Empyrios. We were playing in a show near my hometown, and I think it was the Dream Theater Fan Club party, like 10th anniversary or something like that. I remember there was like Jordan Rudess, like a guest. And when we played there were 2 guys from DGM at the show, and they saw me and they asked me if I wanted to join the band because the former guitar player left. And that's basically, then I joined the band, and then I started my life with them since probably 2005, 2007. And then, yeah, we did all these records, and I became the main songwriter, mainly because they don't want to write any songs. So it was and on the side of that, I started my career as a producer. That's my main job, and it takes most of my time, so I produce band or record bands every day.
For sure. I'd like to delve deeper into the recording stuff. I'm a big gear nut myself.
Right.
But just to kind of step back to the Symphony X thing, I mean, I guess it moves us forward a few years from Empyrios, but when did DGM tour with Symphony X? Was that like the early 2010s, I want to say?
I think it was 2011 on the Iconoclast tour, but actually our story go way back, because we played this big festival in Italy. It was called Gods of Metal, and it finished. It ended right now, but it was the biggest, like 30,000 people every year.
I remember looking at the lineups back in the day and really wanting to go.
Yeah, it was crazy. And we actually played with DGM. We played the 2007 edition. The liners were Heaven and Hell with Ronnie Dio and Dream Theater.
Oh my
Blind
God!
Guardian.
Wow.
I
think I remember that lineup too, because I remember talking several years with that festival and Wacken and other ones. I've talked with friends of, we got to go this year and look at this lineup, and it just has never happened. But I do think I remember looking at that one specifically.
It was crazy. And then we opened that day. We were the second band, and right after us, I think, the third, fourth band were Symphony X, and we had the dressing room next to each other. And I remember clearly they were my favorite bands by far back then. And when I was playing the show, my gig, Russell and Romeo, they showed up on stage and they were like cheering us. Hey, great guys, great energy. And I was like about to faint, my hero watching me playing. And right after that, we spent the entire day together because we went along great. And I remember we watched I was hugging Russell while we were watching Ronnie Dio singing "With Heaven and Hell" because it was a magical moment. And then we exchanged the phone numbers. Hey, keep in touch, stay in touch. And I remember and when you have a phone number of your hero, I was super afraid of. I don't want to annoy them, like call them or whatever,
Yeah.
Well, I never called them back or write them back. But I remember I saw the advertising of the 2011 tour of the Iconoclast, and they were playing in my hometown. One of the shows were in my hometown, so I wrote them a message, and I wrote to Russell. I wrote, "Hey, if you have time, I can bring you guys to some cool place in my hometown, to hang." And he wrote me back. "Oh, you guys want to play in the tour? Of course." And then that's how it started. And right after the tour, we became friends, and we call each other every time. We're good friends with all the band. They're great guys and great inspiration, of course, as still now.
That's incredible. So I'm guessing it was, how you got Russell to sing on Reason was from that tour.
Exactly.
And,
It was exactly right after the tour. We came back, we wrote the song, and I called Russell, "Hey, we have this song. It will be great to have you on the album." And he was super happy to do that. So even the other guy that guested on the album, it was the guitar player from Pagan's Mind, because we shared the...
Oh, Jorn. Oh, I didn't know he was on that too.
Yeah, he's on the same album because we were on the same tour bus. We became super friends. Probably is one of my best friends in the music business. Jorn is really a great guy and a killer guitar player and super nice guy. And I really wanted to have him on the album. So that album to us is really special because we made it right after the tour. In some way, it's a photograph of that moment, with all this new friendship and we getting a little bigger in the scene, knowing all these great artists and bands, and it was a great moment. Yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah, I'm a huge Pagan's Mind fan as well. So
yeah,
putting all three bands together, I would have loved to have seen that show. That's great. Have you ever seen the video, just being a Symphony X, of I believe it's Sea of Lies, and it's Michael Romeo doing the guitar solo from it?
Of course. You mean the instructional video?
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I have the VHS, and I basically learned to play guitar on that tape and on the Yngwie tape, basically. So I know it like note by note. But you want to know a funny story about Romeo? When I was like 18, I wanted to play on the records, like along the records on my guitar, but I hated it because, of course, in the original tracks there was the guitar playing,
Yeah.
So I started to transcribe every song, and I was doing all the backing tracks myself, programming the drums, programming the bass, programming the keyboards, and I pretty much did all the Symphony X discography. And I was sending all the files to the Symphony X website, and they published all of them, for all the fans to play along.
Yeah.
And when I met Romeo, I told him, "Hey, I'm the guy that did all the backing tracks." And he watched it, and he looked at me like, "You must be crazy. Like, it must have been months and months of work." And I was like, "Yeah, of course, but I was a student. I had time back then, So it was great, really great connection."
That's funny. Yeah, I think I downloaded a few of those myself. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's like I remember being I was probably, I don't know, 12 or 13 at the time. Like Napster had just come out, and for a school project I was looking for symphony music. Just something classical to play in the when I was presenting a project or something like that. And I stumble on Symphony X Evolution, and I go, "Well, that sounds cool. Let's download that." And that song just blew my mind. And the second one I downloaded, I'm pretty sure, was Sea of Lies.
Wow.
And so I went, well, okay, I think I maybe had heard of Dream Theater. Like, I was mostly Metallica, Guns N' Roses, stuff like that at the time, because that's what was on the radio. I remember going and looking up the video for Sea of Lies, and it was, of course, back then it was horrible, grainy, you could barely see anything, but it was Romeo doing the solo for Sea of Lies, and I just went, "Oh, what is," like, I'd never seen anything like that. So yeah, that song just completely blew my mind and changed my life on guitar.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I will never stop to talk good things about them because every time I read a review about one of my albums, they always say, oh, like Dream Theater kind of. No, I've never been a fan of Dream Theater. I'm more like a Symphony X fan. It's like, of course, Dream Theater are great. Like Petrucci's God, whatever. But to me, they were never like, to my taste, of course, they were never like aggressive and in your face like Symphony X. Like the heavy riffs and all the stuff.
Yeah,
So
no, I mean, through the years, I've
it.
turned on so many friends onto DGM just saying it's Italian Symphony X. I'm like, you guys aren't a clone, but you can tell there's a clear inspiration,
Yeah.
So let's talk recording. So it's so funny. Like over the last probably decade, I feel like half the records I get now are produced or mixed by yourself. Like it's crazy. Like I literally, I just talked to Alessandro Del Vecchio about a week ago, and Roberto from Secret Sphere as well.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like just every record I come across recently, it's mixed by Simone, which is really funny. So how did you get started with doing recording? Like, did you go to school for it, or did you just hang around studios to learn it? Or how did you come to learn about recording and build a career out of it?
No, never. I never went to school up for that. And even now, after 20 plus years, I still feel that I'm not an expert about the theory of things. Basically, I remember I was recording myself back then when I was doing all the Symphony X backing tracks. I was recording myself on the first, I remember like the first PC where I could record like with the Sound Blaster card or something like that. I could record like one track, and you could have this Sonar, Cakewalk, whatever software, and I could record 4 tracks. And I always recorded myself because I liked, to listen back to the ideas, to the playing, if it was sloppy or if it was tight. But I never recorded for people. Like I was recording myself. And then at the same night when I met all the DGM guys and they asked me to join the band, I met another guy, and he was an owner of one of the biggest studio in Italy. It was about 1 hour drive from my home. And he was doing pretty much all the bands from Italy in the heavy style, not actually no big names, but everybody was going to record there because he had a great ear. He still has a great ear. And then I met him, and he told me, hey, I liked your show and I recorded it. So if you want the tracks, come visit my studio and I'll give you all the tracks for free because I enjoy the show, and that's it. So basically I recorded my gig in separate tracks. So I went there and I brought with me all my, I don't know, I want to call it like show reel, all my tracks for Symphony X tracks, all my ideas that I recorded. And I played it to him, and he was like so impressed. Oh, did you go to school to record? And I was like, no, man, I'm recording home with my Zoom pedal, like shitty. I was doing all the MIDI drums. I had this Korg keyboard that had a decent drum sound, stuff like that. But basically by myself. And then there was another guy from my hometown. He was way more into the Steve Vai thing, and he was recording himself. So we were exchanging like ideas and stuff. And then basically I started working the day after in that studio, my friend's studio, and I stayed there 10 years. And that was my school, because from day one, he gave me the keys and he was like, okay, you can start record and mix yourself and you're free to do whatever you want. So, first month of panic, because I started with a big studio with this big desk, big monitors, and I was basically recording on my PC at home. And my friend, that guy was really cool because he wasn't teaching me per se, but he was like listening to the finished job as I was recording or mixing them. And he was giving me advice like, hey, can you hear the snare, the compression? It should be like that. So it was not like that I assisted him. I basically started recording and mixing from day one, but he was judging all my works every night, every day. And then from there, it was like a learning curve, and basically all from experience. I think I had a file where I wrote down all the bands that I worked with, and I stopped filling the file when I was like 450 bands, but some of them, did like 2-3 records with me. So I must probably record like 1,000 more albums. And of course, even if you didn't want to go to school, you learn stuff, by ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's boring. I mean, not the job itself, but sometimes you met arrogant people, or like, it's not always that you work with brilliant people or funny people, in every job is like that, so but it's a great job. I love it, and every day I discover new thing. I'm always constantly watching tutorials or exchanging ideas with all my colleagues, and I'm constantly changing gear, like buying new heads, new cabinets, new microphones. So to me it's like, yeah, it was like us, and to me it's not only a job, it's my passion. So it fills my life like 20 hours per day, so that's my passion and my main job.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know the YouTube channel Spectre Sound Studios?
Yeah. Glenn, his name is Glenn.
Yep.
Yeah.
I used to guest on his channel for many years.
Oh wow.
So if you look into videos from probably about 2014 to about the pandemic, I was in a whole ton of them.
Oh, great. I think I watched a lot of them. I mean, the guy screaming and
yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioning, the sort of the one studio in town that all the heavy bands go to, because that was Glenn.
Yeah.
For many years, and I would say at least half of what I know about recording is because of him.
Right.
We did some records with him, and then just would always call me back to be like, hey, what do you think? Like, I want a second set of ears for this mix or whatever. And so very much a similar story. I never got into full on producing like you did, but I certainly know enough where, if a band were to come to me and say, hey, we've got a studio, set up some mics, I could probably do something.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean, I feel especially if you do metal, everybody just watches Glenn, right? So
yeah. I mean, I think I always watch the videos. I mean, I don't always agree with what he thinks, but, everybody's different. So everybody has a different method of things. But I love his way of like direct way of telling things and what he thinks without filters. I love it.
Yeah. That's great. Which DAWs do you usually use when it comes to recording?
I'm probably the only one in Italy that uses Digital Performer to record and mix.
Really? Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Because I honestly don't know anybody else using digital in Italy, at least in my style in the style of music that I do. But mainly because I started with a PC, and I remember my first DAW was Cakewalk Sonar.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started in that studio, my friend's studio, it was using Motu interfaces, and that's why I started with. Because back then, if you wanted to have Pro Tools, you had to buy all the hardware, all the converters and stuff, and it was too expensive for him. While Digital Performer, you could use it with every interface, sound interface or converters you could find. So he started with that software, and it was my first time using the Mac. And to me, it was all new. So to me, that wasn't the thing that everybody's using the Pro Tools. I just started with that one, and I stick with them till today. I mean, of course, during the years, I tested all of them. I can use pretty much Pro Tools in a good way. I use Reaper from time to time. I love Cubase. I mean, I think they're all the same, basically. But I'm just used to Digital Performer, like interface and all the shortcuts that I learned. So to me, it's not easy in the beginning because nobody's using that. So you're not finding all the tutorials or the help online. So I had to dig myself into the manual to find, things. But now I'm the guru. Everybody that uses Digital Performer calls me. So, and yeah, I think Reaper is probably the one that I would love to change towards too, but I really don't have the time to learn it properly because I will have to stop working for a month and study it properly and then start over again. But I'm too, when you have all your templates, all your shortcut stuff, all your macros with one DAW, it's hard to change, so it's whatever. They all sound the same to me. So I'm used to Digital Performer, and I will use it.
Yeah, very interesting. And that's so true. I mean, like I learned on Acid and on Saw Studio, which, I mean, I don't even know if Saw Studio is still made anymore.
Yeah, I never heard it.
Yeah, that's Glenn got me onto that.
Okay.
So that's why I know that. But it's a very niche, not a very well-known thing, but very well-programmed piece of software. But yeah, same thing, right? Like you know what you know, and I mean, I've learned Pro Tools, but every time I pull it up, I just go, "Oh God."
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Because you're used to one kind of workflow.
Exactly. And every time I go to a different DAW, to me it's like, oh, where's this feature that I always use? And they probably don't have it, or they have it differently. So I got mad at all the time, and because Romeo tried to, for like 3 years now, because I produce his his two solo albums, and he's still trying to convert me into Cubase, because he wants to send me, so we can exchange, like all the sessions, and I don't have to export, and Cubase is the best here and there. And I tried 3 times, and I told him all the time, this is stupid, like the interface to me is stupid, because I'm used to the digital performer one. So everybody stands up for his own DAW, I guess. So
yeah, it's just pretty much what you've gotten used to.
Yeah,
I think people who still use Windows. I use Windows because that's what I know. I mean, I won't go and say it's better than a Mac or better than Linux. It's just what I know, and I'm not ready to just start from scratch on a new thing. It's the same idea.
No, I mean the whole Reaper is better. Pro Tools, the whole thing is just stupid. I mean, I'm using Mac, and I hate Apple policies. I hate that. I hate giving them money. But the software that I use, it's on Mac. There's a Windows version that is bugging like every 2 seconds. So I will be happy to switch to PC, to Windows. But I'm using Mac since 20 years, so whatever, whatever it works to do the job.
Yeah. So speaking of bands and stuff, one album that I really enjoyed was the first Sweet Oblivion that you did with Geoff Tate.
Yeah.
How did the project come about? And I heard you had some issues with Geoff, like messing with the files or something, from what he was sending you back.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, now that a few years are passed, in the beginning, when I joined Frontiers as an artist, they offered me a lot of things to do. They do all these projects. The singer of that band together with the guitar player of the other bands, all this stuff.
Yeah,
they do that all the time. And to me, in the beginning, was like a job opportunity, because I was thinking, I will have to do records with my favorite artists, because I did a few records with Alessandro Del Vecchio, with the Jolie Turner. It was called Sunstorm, where I played guitars and I wrote a few songs. And Jolie Turner is the singer of my favorite band, Rainbow and Yngwie. He sang on Odyssey, which is my Yngwie's favorite album. So I was thinking, maybe that's my new path, like doing records with all these big artists and getting money from them, from the records.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to do a bunch of them. I did, and Sweet Oblivion, I'm a super big Operation Mindcrime fan, it's like one of my favorite albums. So when they offer me, Frontier's owner, he offered me, do you want to do an album with Geoff Tate? Of course. So I wrote all the songs, all the melodies, all the vocal lines, all the lyrics, whatever, everything. In the style, of course, of Queen's Rights, whatever. And I sent all the songs to the label, and they basically approved all the songs, right? They told me, okay, the songs are great. You can send them to Geoff Tate, so he will sing them, and it's done. And I was exchanging a lot of emails with Geoff Tate, and he was super polite, and I was super kind to me. And I told him, hey, you're one of my heroes. I listen to your albums a lot. And he was telling me, your guitar player is fantastic, all good stuff. But then when I received the first 2 songs, he basically changed the whole song. Like he cut away all my solos. He put some like different parts. It was like even rapping with 2 different lyrics in a part, like different style. It's not that it's bad or good. I don't want to judge it, but it was totally different from what I did in the beginning. So I just told to the label, hey, I don't like this stuff. I mean, if you guys want to go in this direction, I'm out. I just listen. I'm a easy guy, and I am no one in the music business. I'm not Geoff Tate, Romeo Petrucci, nobody knows me. I don't care. But one thing that I want to keep is my identity and my quality bar that I always like to achieve. Every album I work endlessly, like on every note, on every arrangement, on the mixing and everything. And then when I don't have control over things, I get freaked out, you know, like if somebody starts to change stuff, I start to freak out. And basically I told Frontiers that, and then Geoff Tate was complaining because, oh, I want to be able to change the parts that I want. So there was a little bit of discussion, and in the end he just sent me the files. He sang a little bit what he wanted, a little bit what I wanted, but I wasn't happy about the result. I know that a lot of people love the album because a lot of people wrote me, and I'm happy to hear that. But you know, when they asked me if I want to do another one, I just told them, no, guys, I mean, it's not my thing. I really realized that my thing is doing my own stuff and not depending on other people's ideas. And I also hate, you know, working via email where you don't know the tone of the discussion, of the conversation. I really like, if I want to do music with someone, I really like to be in the same room. You know, when I record the guys in DGM, we always are in the same room, and I telling them, okay, no, do this, do that, or maybe we can try this. It's not that I'm a dictator. Yeah, a little bit I am, but it's not that I'm like Yngwie, do my way, or, you know, it's not like that. I always like to hear ideas, but we have to be on the same page, you know. Otherwise, what's the point of doing an album together? That's what I mean. So it didn't went well as an experience. So I don't think I will ever do another album with Geoff Tate, and probably is the same for him, you know. So it's like whatever. But I'm just happy that people love the album, and I think I played a good solos here and there, and there are a few good songs. And
for sure. No, I hear you. And it's funny, too, because all that we know is the finished result from the album.
Of course.
Glenn, again, is an example. He did the second Woods of Ypres record, and it's known as a classic. A lot of people love it. Glenn can't listen to it because it was pure hell to make. You know, so it's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
where
totally
you might like the end result, but you look back on what it took to make that, and you just shudder. You know, it's like, that wasn't what I thought it would be.
And man, I remember Geoff Tate was sending me a lot of tracks recorded from the tour bus. He was touring, and I was freaking out because, you know, I got this file recorded with an SM58 in the back of the bus. You know, all the problems you can have, all the noise, all the stuff recorded with a Focusrite Scarlett in a laptop. And to me, it was, you know, you have an idea of an hero and you imagine them like super professional, and then you discover all these things, and I was like pissed, you know, because I told to the label too, I want to give you the best quality that I can get, and I'm not getting the best quality from the tracks that I'm receiving, so I'm not happy. And, you know, there was a little bit of discussion, and then in the end, the album, I think, came out decent, and everybody's happy except me with him, and that's it. I mean, no bad feelings. I really don't care. He's an hero, and he's a professional singer, and I always think that was a lesson. You know, you can go well along with all the people you meet in your way. You know, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's better, whatever.
For sure. No, I'm just thinking, like, Glenn got to remix one of the Queensryche Frequency Unknown songs, and there were some issues with that as well.
Oh, okay.
I always say I'm grateful for that, just because I actually got to play guitar on that, because one of the guitar tracks was no good.
Oh, wow.
So Geoff's my favorite singer, and like you said, Mindcrime just is the ultimate for me.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget when Glenn, he calls me over as soon as he got the tracks, and he's like, okay, he said, I sat down for about 20 minutes, started mixing and playing with it. And, you know, I know you're the big Queensryche fan, so let me know what you think. And I'll never forget, he hadn't touched the vocals yet, and he finally pulled up the vocals, and the hair just stood up on both our arms, and we just look at each other and go, that's Geoff Tate by himself singing, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So that was actually professionally recorded, though.
Yeah, it was a different time and a different budgets, probably, and different.
Of course, yeah. Versus it was some project Geoff probably couldn't have cared about. You know, at least the other one was him making a proper record himself to show up his old bandmates, right? So another band I know that you've worked with quite a bit, and I actually got to meet you about 5 years ago at Prague Power, was with Redemption.
Yeah.
How did you start working with them? And tell me about recording, being a part of that live album, Alive in Color.
Right. I'm thinking how I joined the band. And I don't remember. Probably no. Probably was I think I met Nick at the Prog Power. I played there 3 times, 2 with DGM and 1 with Redemption, as you were mentioning. And I think the second time I played there with DGM, he was there with Tom Englund from Evergrey, and they're friends since forever. And then we met there, and he asked me, "Oh, I saw your gig, and would love to have you on the album as a guest lead player." And I was like, "Okay, fine." I knew the band, but I honestly never heard any album. Maybe the first one, because if I'm not wrong, the drummer from Symphony X, he recorded the first one, Jason Rulo. But I might be wrong, but I think it's like that. So when I went back, he sent me a few songs to play on, and I sent him a few leads, a few solos, and I discovered that I was sharing the leads along with like Chris Poland and I think Broderick, all the guys from Megadeth. And I was like, why the guy called me when he could have all these big guys, big names, and great players? But then he was happy about the result. And then I think I recorded 3 albums with them. I mean, I'm not involved in the writing or anything like that. I just get the final songs and I just played all the leads, all the solos. And I always tell him, hey man, I love progressive, but it's too complicated, because I'm more like a 4/4 guy, yeah, I love odd time signatures, but I don't like to count when I'm on stage or when I record. It's like, but Nick is all about, like 15, 16th and 7 plus 5 plus. So I remember when he called us, me and Tom, and he told us, hey, there's a gig in Los Angeles and a gig at Prog Power. We're filming a DVD. I was panicking because one thing is to record a few solos in your studio. You do a few bands of bars and then you do the rest. The other thing is like to learn the entire set list of songs that you never wrote. Basically, you didn't wrote. So I remember I practiced for an entire summer. I was standing outside my courtyard and I was playing the songs over and over, trying to remember all the parts because it was a nightmare. I mean, in a good way, but it was so difficult for me because I'm more of a like verse, chorus, verse, special, solo, bridge, and like classic pop structure. While Redemption is crazy. They can have like 6 different parts in the intro and then 10 different parts with different keys.
Yeah.
So I remember me and Tom joking like this will be the most difficult thing ever, we have to do. But we had a lot of fun. And I met, because of them, I met Ray Alder. And not produced, but mixed his last couple of solo records. And he became another great friend of mine. So it's great to have all this connection, with great people, and all the guys in Redemption are the sweetest guy ever. Like all great guys, great players. And even it's not my main favorite style of music, I really enjoy stay connected with them because they're great. And Nick is probably the best guy in the world, like super nice guy. It's great. It's great to be around those guys.
For sure. Yeah, I chatted with you and Nick, and then at one point Ray walked up, and
okay.
Yeah, I mean everybody was just incredible. That was an amazing show. I'll never forget when he walked out on stage and the place just erupted.
Yeah, man. I also mixed the live album, and I remember clearly when I mixed. I remember when I heard the people reacting to, because it was a surprise, right? Nobody knew that, and at least in not the days before, So I remember the even my reaction, even if I knew that, I have goosebumps all over because the energy of the people was amazing when he went out. Because I love Tom; he's one of my best friends, but Ray is really the voice of Redemption. I mean, they grew up together, like doing all those albums, and he's phenomenal singer.
Yeah, exactly. No, I remember that song started, and I turned to my friend and I said, "Oh, I wonder," because Threads is one of my favorite Redemption songs, and I turned to my friend and I said, "I wonder how this is going to be with Tom singing." And all of a sudden, Ray walks out, and we both just went, "Oh my God!" Yeah, nobody saw that coming. That was definitely the surprise of the festival for sure. All right, let's talk the brand new DGM record, Life. I gotta say, I'm really loving this record. I've had it on repeat for about the last 2 weeks now.
Great.
I mean, the album, loads of heavy riffs. There's definitely the little Symphony X bits to it. But I feel like this album especially, you guys, there's so much attention paid to the melody and writing catchy parts. And I mean, I look at like Find Your Way or Dominator to the Core. I mean,
Right.
Those songs have been stuck in my head now for weeks. Tell me about the writing and recording and approach to this new record.
So, first of all, thank you for the great words. I really appreciate, because basically we all in the past years, in the first albums that I did with DGM, it was all about the riffs, all about the difficult parts on guitar, like the show off thing. I want to show people that I can do this riff on that riff, whatever, and that flashy solo. But year after year, I get bored about that. Now if like sometimes I get bored playing the old songs because it's too, I don't want to say difficult, but it's not fun anymore to me. You have to stay focused for 5 minutes trying to catch every note, and I find myself moving more towards the songwriting thing about I don't want to say catchiness. The thing that you told me a while ago, like, oh, those songs are stuck in my head, to me is the best compliment, because to me it's what's most important nowadays. So this album, of course there are, as you said, there are like heavy riffs and whatever, but the thing we spent most time on was finding all the vocal lines. And it actually was different from the past, because usually the process is like that. I write all the music, and I like to program all the drums, bass. I'm a dictator anyway. So it's like, no, it's simply because I like to listen to the songs in my car, the pre-production. So I'm thinking, when I listen back, oh, maybe the chorus is not working that good. I must change a few chords here and there, whatever. And then when the music is done, we usually meet with the guys, especially me and the singer and the keyboard player. And usually I let Marco, the singer, sing along the songs, like improvising, like over and over and over until I'm happy with some, oh, that phrase is great, that melody is great. But this time was different because he had some issues in his family, so health issues. So he couldn't leave his hometown for 2 years, because he had to assist his mother. So basically we found ourselves, okay, so what should we do? Like wait for 2 years? Maybe it's too much, because I had all the music ready. So we spoke all together and we tried this new solution. We met, me and Manuele, the keyboard player, and the bass player, Andrea. And we basically wrote all the melodies ourselves, keeping in mind, we're playing together since 15 years. So I know exactly what my singer likes and what he doesn't like. All the range for the vocals, all the notes that he doesn't want to hit because they're too high, and all that stuff. I know that perfectly. So we basically wrote everything, and we sent all the songs to him, and he sang them again in his home studio, interpreting what we wrote. And I think the result was great. And he was less stressed because he was feeling, oh, I'm not participating this time. I feel bad about that. I'm leaving you guys alone. But to me, it was a different method, workflow different from the past. So I think it gave the album a little bit of different, I don't want to say freshness, but, I think the album is in the same style of the last two, music-wise. But if you notice that it's a little bit more melodic, maybe it's that because we really search for that thing, And the other thing, a few people knew that, but I basically wrote 2 albums at once, because I was, we were in lockdown here. It was pretty bad. So I couldn't go out for basically 2 years, except for the summer. So I was writing a lot of stuff. And lately, I've been moving my listening preferences towards more like the prog rock thing. I'm loving nowadays like Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson, all the prog rock thing. And I'm discovering all the old stuff, like the Yes, the early Yes, the Kansas, the Rush, the King Crimson. And I started writing a lot of stuff in that style too. And I found myself having like 20 more songs, completely different. I'm not completely, but really different in style. And I told to the guys, why don't we do like a double album? One side is a heavy one, and the other side is like the quote unquote mellow. I mean, not mellow, but more prog rock-ish. And that was the idea. And we recorded 2 albums at once. But then the label, we talked with the label and they thought, oh, maybe it's too much stuff at once because the albums are really long. And we decided, okay, let's put out the heavy one. That's live, basically, the album that you listen. And I didn't finish it. I still have to go in and do a few tweaks, but the other album is already ready, so I really can't wait to people to listen to the new one too, because it's really different, like no double bass, no and all the keyboards are like mellotrons, like Hammond organ, a lot of acoustics which I didn't ever use in DGM, so to me it's really refreshing. I really can't wait to put out the other album too.
It's funny because I was going to ask you about number 7 on the new album, Eve, which is an instrumental that is pretty much like you're describing. I mean, it reminds me of all the instrumentals from Rush, from Dream Theater, Siam Shade, all that kind of stuff. Definitely, like you said, prog rock. So was that sort of you getting out a little bit of that and sneaking it into this album?
Yeah, that was right in the middle because it wasn't so mellow. The riff was quite heavyish, but it wasn't. So it was in the middle. So we decided, okay, let's put it in the first album and let's give listener like a hint. Okay, the next one will be more towards this kind of style. A little more proggish. It's not that we don't like this album. Of course, we love it because it's like my child. It's like every musician always say, "Oh, albums are like child. You cannot choose one." And of course, it's the same for me. But I'm just equally excited for the next one, especially because it's way more different from everything we did before. And it's always a risk because you're always anxious about the result. Will people love it? Will people hate it because they're used to the same stuff? But for sure, me and the other guys in the band, we're kind of tired of repeating the same pattern, okay, heavy riff, melodic chorus, and the solo. I really feel that I reached the end for now, inspiration-wise, with the live album. If I try to write another song, it will start to sound exactly like the same to the core or the same riffs, so I really want to do something different to not fall into the trap of releasing album after album all the same.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I think too, as an artist or whatever, I mean, you start to play the same songs or the same style over and over forever. And I mean, that's why so many bands, as soon as they get a chance to do a solo album, it sounds nothing like anything else you've heard. I mean, Geoff Tate's a perfect example. His solo album sounded nothing like Queensryche. Yeah. Because it was just, okay, I've done Queensryche for 20 years or I've done power metal for 20 years. I need a break from this and to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely true. And it's not that I don't love all the old songs, but I think, and also we're not a big band. We're not making a lot of money or stuff like that. So we're not forced to do like the same stuff over and over because we're afraid of losing fans. So who cares? I mean, I just want to write good music. And if my followers or listeners are smart and educated enough, they will love the new sound maybe even better because it's different and it progresses to a different path, in a different way. And of course, I think even if you change style, I think it's impossible to change the trademark. I mean, it's always me writing the songs. So yeah, I can change a little bit the guitar sound or the drum sound or the the arrangement, but it's always me writing the parts and the melody. So it can be that different,
Yeah, it's the stamp of the band is still there, even if you're going to tweak the sound.
Exactly. Like, for example, I love Opeth, and I actually love the new Opeth more than the past one, even if everybody's saying the contrary, because, I'm more into the melodic stuff, and before they were more screaming and growling. I can easily listen into Ghost of Perdition, which was the heavy, and Heritage, which is 70s. And to me, they're the same band. It's just different arrangement, different sound, but to me, it's the same ideas put in different contexts, So, and to me, it's really I think everybody gets bored listening to the same album over and over. I mean, unless you are AC/DC or stuff like that. I mean, I'm the biggest Yngwie fan ever, but I'm getting bored since 15 years because the albums are pretty much all the same and they sound like crap. I just say this because I want him to call me to mix an album. That is my dream, But it will never
Please,
happen.
yes, please. I don't know. I mean, he still puts on a great show. He's still Yngwie, but
I'm seeing him in 2 days. He's the best, and I love him, and it still gives me goosebumps when he plays some songs. So I definitely can't wait to see him.
Yeah, he still does the kick, and he's still Yngwie. He still puts on a hell of a show, and yeah, he's great. Are there plans, Simone, to tour on Life? Are you guys gonna hit the road with some shows?
Yeah, we have something planned for the next spring because we turned down some shows in the winter because basically we're not playing together since 2 years. And yeah, we recorded the album, but you record every instrument alone, so we never played in the same room since 2 years because of lockdown and whatever, and maybe more than 2 years. So we decided, okay, first we want to rehearse and try to play together the new songs for at least 1 or 2 months, and then we will start to play live again, because I don't want to go out without rehearsals and be sloppy and that guy doesn't remember that part. I hate that. So we need to focus, and nowadays we're a band that for every decision it takes a lot, because we live really far from each other. My single is 8 hours from here and we're all far from each other, so every time we have to meet, it's difficult. Okay, now we all have families and children and stuff like that, so it's not easy as 10 years ago. Then we just played music all the time every day, so it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, definitely we will play live shows in the next year probably.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm secretly hoping you guys will be announced for Prague Power, because I have not seen.
Yeah, me too. So there's no I don't know anything about so far. So
I know there's a couple Prague Powers left. I'm planning to go till the end, so I would like to catch you guys as DGM properly, because I missed the years that DGM played there, so would definitely like to catch you in that capacity. So I want to say, thank you so much for taking out the time to do this.
No problem. The best interview I did so far.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was fun just getting to gab about some of these old bands, and it's like, man, I just want to hang out and talk gear and talk favorite bands and stuff,
and also the same questions. I mean, I think people should just listen to the album, okay, you like it or not. Of course, it's fun to say things about the new album, but year after year, it's always the same thing, I guess. Okay, we wrote those songs. We think they're great, and the same thing over and over. So it's fun when I listen to other people interviews, I love to hear, the different stories, the background stories and stuff like that. So it's cool.
That's exactly why I do these.
Yeah. And please say hello to Glenn. He does know me, but he's a great guy. So I want just to shout out to him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I certainly will. I mean, I used to be talking to Glenn on a constant basis when I was way more involved with his channel. But I mean, we still get together for dinner and hang out and whatever all the time. So yeah, the next time I see him, I'll definitely drop your name as well.
Great. I don't know if he's into the stuff that I do. I'm more into the niche, like the progressive, melodic stuff. But you never know.
That's it. Well, it's funny because I know I've had him in the car before, and I want to say it was Labyrinth came on, and he's like, "Wow, that's a great sounding record."
Oh, okay.
Something you mixed. I'm pretty sure it was Labyrinth. I could be wrong, but
just playing the Romeo stuff, probably the best.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. This was a lot of fun, Simone. I really enjoyed the chat, and I'll keep an eye out for the next record too. I'd love to get you back for another interview, and we'll just gab music.
Yeah, anytime.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, have a good day. Yep.
Thanks so much.
Bye.